Greetings and felicitations.
Hip hip hurrah, tally ho.
Hey, baby doll.
Hey, Puddin'.
Let's talk about Star Trek Enterprise, episode entitled Civilization. Original air date was November 14th, 2001. It was written by Phyllis Strong and Mike Sussman. It was also directed by Mike Veher.
The Enterprise finds a fully inhabited Earth-like planet where some of the inhabitants are suffering from a mysterious disease.
Okay, what'd you think about this episode? Any highlights for you?
Overall, it was kind of mediocre, really.
Mm-hmm. This is the first time we ever got to see, at least canonically, as far as the timeline goes, a doctor make some alterations to crew members' faces so they could fit in with other inhabitants on the planet.
Yeah, chronologically the first time on Star Trek. So it's a good thing that the doctor really didn't have to do much, though. He just added these forehead prosthetics.
Yes.
And so T'Pol, much the way Spock always had to do, she had to cover her ears when she went to the planet.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm waiting for them to go onto a planet where everyone is elf-like, and then the crew has to put on ears.
Yeah,
kind of like what Kirk did as a Romulan.
yeah, but you want more people than just Kirk to have to wear the ears.
Exactly. I love pointed ears.
I do too. Yeah.
Let's talk about the story.
Well, Riker and Troy, and Who Watches the Watchers.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay, the story. So they go to this planet and find out that the reason they're going down, right, is because there's some kind of energy source coming from the planet, and they find out that there's some other aliens there that are extracting something from the planet, and they're also poisoning the water, and people are dying on the planet, and these aliens don't care that some people are dying. They just said, well, it's just going to be a few, like that won't matter for the whole planet.
This is an episode that, at least at the beginning of the episode, I very much enjoyed it because it spoke about the moral predicaments that humans would have to go through when they're exploring space. Because Archer has made it clear, this is a vessel of exploration. Their goal is to explore strange new worlds. This is what Star Trek is all about, is exploration. T'Pol, what did she say? She wanted to pull back in reins and say, wait until society develops warp drive before initiating first contact.
Because that's a Vulcan protocol.
Exactly, but in the world of Star Trek, we know that makes sense. That is what they should be doing.
Well, we know that Starfleet will adopt that protocol later on.
Yes.
But at this time, though, Archer is like, well, we're not Vulcans, we're not going to do that because we want to see this planet.
And that's what I think is absolutely amazing about Enterprise, is because this is the early era of exploration, is that there were no rules. They were just figuring things out as they went along. And we would see that they would get repercussions for having no restraints within time. But what'd you think about that? Now we're noticing that so many things that Vulcans have introduced to humans make so much sense. I mean, number one, when I was growing up, IDIC. When I really, really thought about that concept of IDIC, it made sense. And I was thinking, why doesn't everybody apply this principle?
And you see it right at the beginning when they said that this is a Menshara class planet, which is M class.
Yes.
But you notice how they were so excited. Oh, a class M planet. Like, an Earth type planet. They were so excited because they were hoping that it would be more people like them that they could talk to. And, you don't see that kind of excitement on the other Star Trek shows.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. So
it becomes mundane after a while. Class M almost should stand for mundane. Like, here we go, another Class M planet. Let's go on there, see what we find. Whereas I love the fervor of this crew.
Exactly. They were, here they're still excited about exploration.
Mm-hmm. And they wanted to visit the Malorians. And we know the Malorians were mentioned on the original series episode, The Changeling. They were the race that was wiped out by Nomad. So we see a connection there with other Trek.
Yeah, that was a neat thing they threw in, just to have something neat, to have a reference there. And we know that it's a civilization that's going to get destroyed later, but they just wanted to use it. It's, the fun little Easter egg they threw in. And another thing, when T'Pol said that, she picked out this place that was a more remote island on the planet, so that there would be less cultural contamination. And when Archer said maybe that's why UFOs always land in crop fields, that was neat too.
Made sense.
Several things in the episode had to do with UFO sightings. They were trying to reference UFO sightings on Earth. Why are they always in crop fields? Well, maybe because they want to have as little cultural contamination as possible.
Yeah.
And then the UFO abduction, or seeing the UFO come down, that took something with it, had the ray of light shine down and something floated up in the air, just like other
like
sci-fi movies. Yeah, so they did something to similar to that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, talk about real world. During the filming of this is when the attacks on America, September 11th, the terrorist attacks. And the producers to this day say it's hard for them to watch this episode because they see the change in demeanor of the actors when the actors found out about this. And so I'm not that good of a student of acting where I could tell the difference, but apparently this was a very difficult time for all those on set, the actors and everyone behind the scenes, to continue working during this tragedy.
Yeah, it was a difficult time, and certain things that came out in the episode too. The way the aliens had the human skin, but then you pull that back and they were actually reptiles under the skin.
We both said at the same time, V!
Yeah, exactly. like V, which was another show that was kind of patterned after the Cold War. Just something that, because the Cold War, they thought of Russia as being like disguised, these reptiles in disguise. And it very much fits into 9/11, the terrorism idea, having the enemy being so close to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, anytime I hear, everyone knows where they were on September 11th. And, I do really feel bad for those involved in this episode. They were doing something really awesome, adding to the Trek lore, but living through this tragedy and not being able to express themselves or even just take a break from life, but because Trek had to keep going on. This is the episode that is the first reference to the Tellarites in Enterprise.
Yeah, they were mentioned in this, and later on we get to see them on Enterprise. So they are trying to reference the original series, trying to bring back some things that the fans know about, and throwing in these little things.
And we're talking about all these things that they did very well on this episode. But it fell flat. It didn't come up to a grand climax and then make you feel great at the end. I mean, where were the problems? Both of us really didn't think this episode was all that awesome with regards to how everything was presented in the end.
A lot of it, I think it was just slower paced. It just wasn't as exciting. And one of the things they tried to do with this was have Archer be like Captain Kirk, seducing the woman.
Oh, I love that part, by the way. That was a great scene, though, huh?
Kissing her to distract her.
Yes. Now, I know early on when the show first came out, it was a huge problem for me connecting this series to the original series, because this is one of the areas of the universal translator.
What about it?
Kirk hardly used it, and when he did use it, it was with the Gorn. It just seems like it's so inconsistent in this series. Sometimes they use a universal translator, sometimes they don't. If they had it, it would make sense to use it all the time. So the inconsistencies with people speaking English and non-English, it was so glaring to me.
I kind of thought they always at least tried to use it. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about Archer was the fight scene, and he, there were comments about the episode that his fighting was like Captain Kirk in this episode. Mm-hmm. Just what it looked like more primitive fighting.
Like judo, a lot of rolls and stuff.
Yeah, the rolls and things. So they had the idea to try to make Archer a little bit like Kirk, but I don't think he was. That part, that just fell flat. He's a different character.
And I don't want him to be.
Yeah, Archer was fine on his own.
I love Captain Kirk. I love Captain Picard. They're two different people, two different styles. I like Jonathan Archer for what he was. I don't want another Captain Kirk. So I wasn't really thrilled with that. I mean, look, you like him. He's a good-looking guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were that girl, would you resist him?
No, not really.
Exactly. So, I mean, there is some reality in there. You're cooped up on that ship, and it's a very small crew. Yeah, of course. But I want Jonathan Archer to be Jonathan Archer. We're still early on in the series, but they're still trying to figure out where they want these characters to go. They're trying to figure out what resonates with fans more so than others. So I wasn't thrilled with it. I think that the problem with this episode is there wasn't an awesome conclusion.
Yeah, like it wasn't really an unusual story. It was, it's pretty much save the primitive people.
Yes. Yeah, the Easter eggs are the thing that carried me for this episode.
What about the scene where they were trying to figure out the alien writing on their panels to try to figure out how to work their system? That was funny. Just going, I think this is the button. It's the yellow button. No, it's the green button.
Yeah.
And actually, you don't see that as much on Star Trek. Usually, they go into an alien computer and they know exactly what button to push.
It takes me 20 minutes to download an app on a phone that I've had for years. There's no way I'm going to pick up somebody else's phone and figure it out.
Right, exactly. Like, how did they know how to work the Klingon bird of prey in Star Trek 3
and 4? Oh, of course,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that part was funny. That was, and I think, now that I think about it, that was probably the best scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we compare it and we look at it to what do we get out of this episode, one of the questions that we always ask ourselves, how does it connect in with the rest of Trek? Well, there were some strong connections here with the aliens that they visited. The planet did make a reference to it on the original series, so there's a strong connection right there. Major connection with planting the seed of what the Vulcan principle is with should they greet others on a planet or just leave them alone. We know this is going to be a staple going forward in Starfleet protocol.
And I like how, once they went down to the planet, they found out that something was going on, that they were being manipulated by these aliens, and they were able to save the planet from the aliens, from the hostile aliens. Mm-hmm. So that was good. That was a good Star Trek theme.
Yes.
Saving the innocents.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So in those ways it worked. It just the way it was executed was not as exciting as it could have been.
Totally. I'm going to say I'm going to barely give it a thumbs up just because, not because of the story, but because of all the little tidbits in there that add to Star Trek lore. How do you feel?
I would say thumbs up because it was not a bad episode. So it had some things worth seeing. So I'll say thumbs up. Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.